Big congratulations to completing your IELTS writing section of this course. And now in section 4, we're going to start understanding how to do well in the IELTS speaking part of the IELTS test. In this lesson, you'll understand the structure and organisation of the IELTS speaking test. You'll also have a better understanding about the types of questions that you could also get on the day of your test. So what is the IELTS speaking test? Here is a quick definition. The IELTS speaking test measures your ability to communicate verbally in English across a range of topics and questions. So there is a quick definition of what the IELTS speaking test is, and it basically is here to test how well you can communicate in general in English. So how is the IELTS speaking test organised and structured? There are 3 parts to the IELTS speaking test. In total, the test lasts usually between 11 to 14 minutes. It's important to note that you will be doing a vast majority of the talking. I might say at least 90% of all speaking will be you. The first part of the test is greetings and introductory questions. These are generally on common topics such as work and studies. The second part of the test is where you'll be given a topic cue card. Here you'll speak for between 1 and 2 minutes about a topic that you will know something about. The final part of the speaking test is interview style questions. These relate to the topic cue card that you're given in part 2 of the test. So here are the 3 parts of the IELTS speaking test, and throughout the speaking part of this course, we'll be learning lots of skills and language that you can use for each of the parts. Let's take a look at part 1 in a little bit more depth. In part 1, you will greet the examiner and say hello, and then you will have some questions on topics such as family, studies, sport and hobbies. This part of the IELTS speaking test will last between 4 to 5 minutes. As soon as you enter the room, your test has begun. In total, you'll receive 12 questions. It's important to remember not to give any short answers to these questions. Although you may be nervous, especially upon entering the room, it's important to remain calm and appear confident and friendly. Here is part 2 of the IELTS speaking test, which is your topic cue card. During this section, you'll be given a cue card which is asking you to describe a common situation or topic. On the card, there will be some prompts to give you some ideas about what kind of things that you can speak about. You must speak for between 1 to 2 minutes without interruption. Before you begin your speaking part, you have 1 minute to prepare some notes to help you plan for what you will discuss. Here are some common topics that you may get in part 2. This is not an exhaustive list of all the part 2 topics you might get, but it does give you a better understanding about the types of questions or topics that you'll be asked to discuss. What exactly does a topic cue card look like? Now we'll take a look at 2 examples to give you a better understanding about what a cue card is. So here is a part 2 cue card, and they will pretty much look exactly the same as this. Describe a childhood memory. You should say what this memory is, where it took place, when it happened, and explain why it is an important memory. On the card you have 4 prompts to give you some extra ideas about the types of things that you can discuss. And childhood memories is a very common topic in all parts of the IELTS speaking test. Here is a second example. Describe an activity you do regularly. You should say what this activity is, how you started doing it, where you do this activity, and explain why you do it so often. Again, hobbies and activities are a very common topic on the IELTS speaking test. So here are 2 examples of common Part 2 cue cards. Let's move on to take a look at Part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. During Part 3, you'll be asked further questions about the topic and cue card given to you during Part 2. This part of the IELTS speaking test is meant to be more like an interview, where the examiner can react to what you say and change questions based on your discussion. You still must answer questions at length. Often you'll be asked to predict or explain your thinking in detail. Here are a few examples of the questions you might get based on the topic during Part 2. Do you think diet is important? How can we protect the environment? What makes a good student? Once again, during Part 3 of the IELTS speaking test, it's still very important to give extended, well-developed answers to the examiner's questions. Now I have for you a complete overview of the structure of the IELTS speaking test, broken down into all 3 parts with a short description. You might want to note this down, or you could print screen and save it to a document on your computer. Whichever way, it's good to understand how the IELTS speaking test is organised. That's all for this lesson, our first lesson in the IELTS speaking section of this course. If you have any further questions, please do use the Q&A feature or contact me directly. See you in the next lesson.